In this video demonstration, I'm going to show you how to use the fabulous new French windows die set from the John Next Door collection to make a beautiful standalone card that shows you a beautiful French window. Again, the card you'll have seen at the beginning of the video, but I'm also going to be using the topiary trees in this set. However, this is the French window, so within here you're going to get the outline for the window, the outline for the sort of oriel window at the top. You get the die which will cut you the opening but doesn't cut the two sides. You've got two separate large window panels. You have a separate die to cut out those panels if you want to use them separately or offset them. You then have two smaller windows and two outlines for those as well, meaning you can make a whole host of different windows and decorative panels in your cards. And if you look through the samples on the Crafting with John Next Door and Crafts 2 group, you'll see that some of the angels have used made some beautiful cards using just these panels. This is such a useful set. But in this video, I want to show you basically how we can make a beautiful opening card with a French window in it. So I'm going to start, and what I have here is taken a piece of essential white coconut card, so essential card in coconut white I should say, and I've scored this at 4 centimeters, so it's cut to 8 inches, and I've scored it at 4 inches for the fold. And I'm going to take the outline die and I'm simply going to slide this along until this die here butts up against the edge of the card, and then I'm going to tape that down. And the reason we slid it along and butted it up against there, I'm going to tape it securely, means that the cut line for this edge of the die is literally over the edge, so it can't cut. So it will cut us a beautiful panel. So we take that and we run that through our die cutting machine, and this will fit through your standard A5 die cutting machines. And when it comes out, we get this, which is a quite simple opening panel card. So it opens, and again you could do this or do it as a triptych to give you a beautiful arched card for decorating as it stands. All I want to do now is to cut the French window in. So I'm going to open the card up, and I'm working on this front panel, which of course is the right, and we're going to put the dies into place to cut the window. So I will simply take the oriel section without using the outside cutting line, which is separate. I will then take the window panel and I will place this into there. Now I don't need this card to open because the card's opening, so simply tape that down and I will run that through my machine. So I'm actually going to run this through so that you can see how we add the second panel in. So I've opened the card and popped it through my machine. If you want to do this through an A5 machine, you'd simply fold that panel back and run it through that way. We'll give you an impression on the back, but you can obviously replace that with a simple panel cut in. So we're going to run that through our die machine and allow it to cut. That's gone through our machine and that's cut, and turn it over and check. We have the panels. So leaving the oriel window in place, I'm going to take off the window panel and pop out all of the little sections, and then I'm simply going to match this up and tape this down to cut the second window. And I leave the oriel window in place so that I can actually see that that's fitting in the right space. And again, we run that through our die cutting machine. So this is now run through our die cutting machine, allowing me to take that second panel off. I've got the beautiful open window, and I can take the oriel section off, which gives me the beautiful opening card. And I do think this would be absolutely fabulous for Christmas as well. You could put a beautiful Christmas wreath on there. You could have festive paper inside. This will really work all year round. So now we have our opening window, but obviously we want to strengthen this and we want to put a little bit of almost glass in there. So what we're going to do is cut an acetate panel to fit in. Now acetate can be difficult to cut, so my favourite trick to explain how to do this is to literally use another piece of card. So I'll explain that now. So if I cut this down, I'm going to place it onto the acetate. So the acetate, if I run this through as it stands, possibly won't cut. So I take a spare piece of card, pop it underneath, and run those two through together. And what this will actually do is the actual die will push through the acetate into the card, and it will make the acetate separate. And again, I will run this through the machine so you can see how this works. So this has now run through my machine, but you can see here that the card underneath is cut, and that means that our acetate panel is cut perfectly. And that allows you to have a perfect fitting acetate panel, which will go in your card, but you also have a back piece that you can use to slide into there. Again, you could stamp on that, you could be a decorative paper, so it gives you another panel in the card. So we now need to attach our acetate, so you can use your fine glue applicator or your glue glaze for this. However, for speed, I'm going to use a little bit of spray glue. So I'm going to grab my spray box, pop it in, and I want to make sure that this panel doesn't get any glue on it. So again, you would take a scrap piece of card and just block off the area that you don't want to be glued. We then take our spray glue and simply give that a light spray. Remove our scrap piece of card, and there we have sticky on one side, not on the other. So I take my acetate, put it into place exactly, and press that down. Now you will find that this won't close completely, because obviously this piece is slightly bigger because of the hinge. So fold your card the other direction, and you'll easily see then the little section of acetate that you need to just trim down. So we trim that off with a pair of scissors, give that a definitive fold, and there we have our stand-up opening card. So now I'm simply going to decorate this. So I've cut the trellis die, a sort of little balcony die almost, from the topiary tree set, and I've added 2 thin layers of foam tape onto this, and I can add that on just there at the bottom to create a little railing. But I want to add some decorative pieces before I do this. So I've made up 2 of the topiary trees. If you want to know how to make up the topiary trees, then simply watch the video on that die set. And I've added a little bit of foam tape on the back. So I'm going to have that one overlapping here on the outside. I've made a smaller one of the topiary trees, so all of this is included in the topiary tree set. And I'm simply going to add this, popping out of the inside of the card, so we have a little tree on the inside. Then going to take my little balcony, and I can attach that evenly on the front, so you can see now that we have the tree behind. And you can add, if you want to, some little extra foliage. So here I've got a little bit of the leafy sprig die. So again, this is another John Next Door die. This is just one of the 4 dies in that set. So I'm just using the fine glue applicator from Crafts 2 to add some little dots of glue, because I want this stuck, but I want it to pop over. What I mean is I want it to come over the front of the trellis. So I'm going to tuck that underneath into the pot, and I'm just going to glue that down so it's nicely adhered down. And then I've got some of the Michaelmas daisies, and the smallest daisies in the set, and I'm simply going to add those. So again, I'm going to turn them onto the back, use my fine tip glue applicator, little blob of glue on the back of each of those. to add a few little daisies on the front. And again, if you want to, you could add a couple on your tree, just so that they are sort of keeping it all together. And as you can see there, very simple but very pretty, but a card that is freestanding, so stands completely freely. And again, you could put a beautiful paper inside. There's a lot you can do with this whole idea, but I think the basics of this just really work to show you what can be achieved.